Hello there, Greg here. Some of you watching this may know me as Omni. And I'm making this video because today on a whim I decided to join the Multerra Discord. And you might ask, why would I do this? It's just going to be shit talk. Um, and really it's a bit of closure for me. And just to head off any rumors at the past, I'm not making a new site. I'm not affiliated with Omniverse. This is for Greg. The only thing I have to gain from this is closure. The Omniverse was something I ran for years. I think it was I would count 6 years as when I actually ran it. It ran for like 7 or 8 years, but the last two, wasn't really running anything. In any case, the Omniverse was really important to me, and I think that's what the people that kind of took over with Multerra missed, is that that site wasn't born out of, it wasn't a clique. The Omniverse community didn't exist before. People didn't come to Multerra to go, I want to come to this site. They joined the Omniverse. They didn't find Multerra. They joined the Omniverse and then went to Multerra. Whereas the core, a few people from the Omniverse were from Chubbs, but that was like 6 people out of 30 or 50, however many active members we had at the end there. Definitely probably 100 to 150 over the course of the site. And that was something I was really proud of. There was nothing malicious or trying to get anyone about the Omniverse. It was genuinely a place where people came to write and be a community and be happy. And one day I probably want to talk about the kind of story of the Omniverse, how it all happened, because there's a lot of people to shout out there. People that later folks wouldn't even know existed, like Kyrie, from the first sort of she joined at about the 6-month mark of when the Omniverse happened, and was there as a moderator for about a year, and she was absolutely instrumental in making the whole place as successful as it was. Mark, for the sort of mid to end period of the Omniverse, was absolutely instrumental. And without some of the people like that, Daniel, obviously, Amy, the site would not have existed. And it was a pure thing. And towards the end, things got political, both in a real political sense and in a cliquey political sense. And that's really sad. Towards probably the final 2 years of the Omniverse, I didn't really want to run the site anymore, but I kept it running because it was a thing that people enjoyed, and I was proud of having built it. Let's be honest here. I basically did do the majority of the work to get the site up and running and make it successful in the first few years. Up until I got my RSI, I busted my ass, and then it was sort of running, it was coasting. Obviously, loads and loads of staff helped out, kept it running, and I don't want to downplay that. But this was something that I was proud of. And the way that it disappeared was really saddening to me, because as much as I say, I wasn't invested in keeping it running, I would have preferred to have it end in a happier way, to reflect what I thought was the core feeling the site gave me and the people who were on the site. And I think the people who've, not been part of Multerra are people that kind of longed for that and didn't want to join Multerra was just kind of, it was something that split the whole community in half for absolutely no reason. And I'd said to Alex, and I'd said to multiple people, if you want to take over the site, if you want to make your own site, even, I'm happy to support. I'm happy to say, look, jump over to this new site. I literally said this to Alex. So the reason for the lies that were told and all the bullshit was spread, it was absolutely unnecessary, and all it served to do was to split the entire user base in half. And I wish that could have been avoided. because Jeff, Joe, and Alex were probably my longest friends that I ever had. And I still think about this. I still think about this because it really affected me afterwards. I don't trust people as much as I do anymore. And as part of this, you know, decompressing for me, or not decompressing, debriefing, I decided to, after what, 2 or so years of the site being up, decided to join the Omniverse Multerra and see what some of the things that were said on here for, because I never knew what happened behind the scenes. I never knew really the lies that were told until a lot of people already left the site and had believed a lot of these things that were said about me. One of the things, this is why I've said about one of the people on the forum thread. I made an apology thread on the Omniverse because I genuinely did fuck up in the way that I handled things. I freely admitted that at the time. I was put under far too much pressure for way too long. And if I'd have made it just another 6 months to a year, I might have gotten out of that bad situation that I was in, and I might not have exploded in the way that I did. But I'd been running that site for 6 years at that point, which is longer, far longer than most RPGs last on this internet. And I think I did a pretty good job. But, you know, I was going through shit. I was literally living in a house after nearly being made homeless, sharing with a bunch of other people who I didn't know, in a situation that I don't want to go too much into, because this video is mainly aimed at people who are probably just going to be flaming me in the comments. So what I really want to talk about is just address some of the lies. So let's look at some of the easy to address lies in here. All I did was join the Multerra Discord and I searched for Greg. And we have a lot of this stuff from people that I've called friends, even people who I've stayed friends with after the Omniverse, like Scott, like Baron, who apparently had these things that they believed about me for a long time, but never mentioned. One of the oldest, let's start from the oldest. Ganondorf, my old friend Jeff. Back in 2018, damn, that's how long this was. I'm worried about how Greg is going to handle this ban. He had a meltdown just because people were mean to the guy. No, I had a meltdown for a lot of reasons. As I said before, I was going through a really, really rough time in my life. I'd nearly been made homeless. You know, I've talked about this for years. My dad had died just a year before, and I was dealing with all of that shit. And for a long time, the Omniverse had this culture of niceness. People were nice to each other. But the political climate in 2018 was a fraught one. And I wasn't really a political person back then. I didn't know shit about politics. So beneath my nose, all these political divides were forming, and I really had no idea how to navigate that. On the site itself, people were beginning to express these kind of outright memey kind of bullshitty ideas, and on the left, people were getting outraged. And this was sort of happening beneath my nose, because this was happening in private discords and things like that. Nothing was really overtly happening on like the chat box. And things started to get socially political. People were starting to get at each other's throats. And as I said in the post where I kind of signed off, one of the things that I loved about the Omniverse, that you'd have people like me and people like, what was his name? People like those who would know him as Rebby. Like, we didn't like each other, but it wasn't about who liked one another. Like, we both worked together to make the site a better place, and I respected him all the more for it, that we could both work together despite disliking each other. And towards the end of there, people were trying to attack each other just because they didn't like him. People were trying to get Dane off the staff team just because they didn't like him. And people were throwing fits. People were like quitting the staff team over like in a huff. I'm talking about one particular person who I don't want to name, but you will obviously know. if you were involved in this at all. And Ukanda was talking to me about like trying to get rid of Dane, which turned out later that Ukanda is a massive transphobe and Dane came out as trans, so a lot of that lines up in retrospect. They didn't like each other politically, and obviously Sasuke was in this as well. Sasuke jumped back and forth between sides, as other people noted, like, oh, Sasuke is like white knighting Greg. And, you know, I knew that. That was obvious. I didn't want him defending me. And eventually he outed himself with his transphobia and got kicked out of the site. I was just trying to keep the site together, honestly. I didn't care about any of this political stuff. But that is a lot of what happened to tear the site apart. So back to what I'm responding to. I didn't handle the ban well because the last thing I said to Alex was, could you please not kowtow to this atmosphere of like mob fury of just trying to get people banned, particularly with Dane, because he's obviously being preyed upon for reasons that have nothing to do with his conduct as a staff member. Now, Dane wasn't perfect. There was a lot of shit that came out about private information after he was banned, and that wasn't good. But, you know, we don't ban people for having arguments in private. We never have. That was a precedent-breaking thing. And Alex deliberately went behind my back to ban Dane, despite me saying, can you not escalate this? So, yeah, I was not happy about this. And apparently this was, you know, this was all being spread in rumors behind my back, things that I could not respond to because they weren't in public. I always operated in public. And on occasion where I did address things in public, as the Dane thing, people would say, this isn't the place to talk about this, Greg. And the reason they were saying that is because that kind of fucked things up for them. That kind of fucked things up for their little propaganda machine, is to just talk about things openly and publicly. And people who will know me, people who really know me and watched the way I ran the site and appreciated it, knew this about me. I've always been very bluntly honest. You know, I'm autistic, I have Asperger's syndrome, and that is part of who I am as Greg. It's just to be bluntly honest. So let's go to more shade being thrown, and let's respond. What I'm saying is that I don't think Greg would pay for the site without planning to return to it. I paid for the site solo for years before people started showing up and throwing donations at me. And that was a user suggestion. That was someone saying, hey, I would like to donate. And I didn't have a donate button at the time, so I made one. And then people started donating more. I was like, oh, okay, this is a thing now. But I paid for the site for years, and I was happy to do so. Up until the point at the very end, like at the 8-year point, where it was like, listen, I'm not involved in the site anymore, and I don't want to be. And people are telling me to do all these technical updates. And I just said, listen, if you want to do this, if you want to keep running the site, you take it over, because I'm done at this point. So that was at the 8-year mark after people had left for Multerra. Jacob, this really hurt me. Jacob says, I talked to Greg briefly over PMs, and he seemed to at least understand where I was coming from. That's all I really want for him, but it's just making me emotional, and that's probably a drama queen, but meh. I really thought Jacob... I don't think Jacob is a bad person necessarily, but he was never honest with me. He was clearly involved with all of this, and he didn't tell me any of what was going on. So to try and put blame on me the way he did, and try to get like an emotional resolution from me while lying to me, that hurt. And that's all I'll say on that matter, because I don't think Jacob really told any lies other than just not telling me the truth. While, you know, it was deceptive, but there are more important things to talk about, such as this. From Jeff, Greg sent me some DMs. He seems legitimately remorseful for his actions. I really do hope this is a return to the Greg of yore. This is really, really interesting. Jeff, I think, is possibly the biggest liar of the bunch. And this is sad because me and Jeff were really close friends for years. Jeff sent me an apology after I came out, after I discovered Multerra. He apologized for lying to me. And for a couple months there, we did actually speak. I was very angry, obviously. I was very upset. But it was him apologizing to me. But in public, he's saying that I apologized to him and was remorseful for my actions. Um, I've said I was remorseful for the way I handled things. But ultimately, I don't think what I did, this one blow up after 6 years of running the site, this one emotional, like, where I turned the site off for 24 hours to let people cool off. People overreacted to that a little bit by, all of this. So let's keep going. So apparently Greg did not, in fact, renew the Omniverse. Obviously, that is just incorrect. I think it went down for a day because of some server shit. Victor Wolf. And then Greg, we didn't like his new bestie, threatened to kill the site and ban us. No, I've covered this already, but, Victor is not really worth responding to. Greg had been running on fumes for at least a year when I left. Correct. Greg did find out we existed recently, which I'm guessing chapped his ass nicely. Real lovely to found a site on trying to BTFO somebody. Like, that's a really great foundation for a website, is revenge. Alex, this is somewhat random, but someone drew my attention to it for those who still might frequent the Omniverse. Greg has never reached out to Joe or myself in the aftermath of the stuff from the summer. He and I last spoke when he requested the Discord admin stuff. I have no interest in slandering the man, but his remarks as he tried to reach out to me, Joe, or anyone involved in this project are baseless. He and Jeff talked over their issues, but that was a conversation begun and pushed by Jeff. We spoke... No, I didn't contact Alex after Multerra was launched, after I found out Multerra was launched. When I spoke to Alex, it was when he was still working on the Omniverse. And I didn't know Multerra existed. And after I found out after I found out that Alex had gone behind my back and lied, I had no interest in talking to Alex, and I've never contacted Alex again. Because nobody's ever done that to me. Like, Alex was a very close friend of mine for years. And I can't, who does that? What kind of piece of shit? Because a friend has a mental breakdown. I did have basically a mental breakdown because I was having a really hard time in life. And I shut down the site for 24 hours and handed over control to Alex. I gave Alex everything. I gave him the Discord. I gave him the Facebook. I gave him the Twitter. I gave him the website, the admin credentials, everything. He had the entire site. So to suggest that I was I trusted him with everything. So what more could I have done? Alex took that and completely manipulated it. Just completely took advantage of my vulnerability at that time, as did Jeff, and said that, I was planning to shut down the site. Had I ever shut down the site, I would have given people massive advance warning. And I've always taken backups of the site. I said that I might want to shut down the site, but the idea that I was just going to shut it down in some thing of rage was madness. I disabled the site for 24 hours because this political explosion had gotten ridiculous, and I had had enough of it. And even staff members weren't handling themselves well. Everyone needed a break. And I still kind of stand by that. I think, obviously the way I did it was not great, but just, I think it was the lesser of evils in some senses. And it's been twisted into this thing. I think this is one of the reasons Jeff ended up doing this. Jeff referring to Dante's Abyss, whatever it was, talking about how I betrayed him in Dante's Abyss. Yeah, I betrayed him in a meta sense in a game that we were playing. Just like Jeff betrays people when he's playing a Mafia game. It's a fucking game, It's a game where you're meant to betray people. The whole game was meta as fuck, and I told Alex I didn't like the game, but if it's gonna be like that, and it's going to encourage betrayal and metagaming, then you embrace it and play it that way. You don't hold bitter grudges and carry that over into real life, you know? Dante's Abyss, like, that was a great example of why I thought the format was risky and not great. But moving on. Right, so here's some of the more interesting stuff. Just the shade throwing and shit talking. Alex in 2020, because Greg was still pissy that I wouldn't let him banish him after DA. I believe he's talking about Carl Jacks. He's saying, I had to lay off of Carl Jacks for a few months after the first DA. First off, like, it was my website. If I'd have decided that Carl Jacks as part of the overall storyline should die, then that wouldn't have been something that you allowed me to do. It was my website, right? So that's odd right off the bat. I don't even particularly remember this. So I'm just going to move past. It's just kind of funny, some of this shade going out here that has evolved over time in absence of me to this rumor milling. Another one from Scott, a friend, someone that I believed was a pretty good guy. I still remember that first DA where relics were given out to the top 8 or so people, and Greg was one of them. I always thought that was so dodge. Like, what? I think this is a reference to Chubbs. Like, because if you're accusing artifacts being given out, then Alex was the one running that. So Alex would have been the dodge one, you know? This is some of the interesting stuff. Stuff that's just total bullshit. So Alex talking about he made new friends with Mark, Greg, and Laura. And Nate. And he says, Greg always disliked Chubbs / memories of it because he could never crack that top click. Or, let's see. He says, we were the losers who weren't part of the in crowd, which always pissed off Greg so fucking much. No, we were better than the in crowd. Like, you know that. I never disagreed with you on that. We were better. Like, I loved what we did back then. We were mates up until you literally went behind my back and I had to find out about it through other people. We were mates, and I still considered us to be. So I didn't know any of this hate that you apparently held for me. This was news to me. You've been telling me that you were my friend for years. So how the hell are you going to slander me and tell me that I'm the piece of shit when you were pretending to be my friend for years? And now making up all of this stuff. Yeah. D's nuts or Deadpool saying, then Greg got some disability and turned evil after coming back from Japan. Wow. That says a lot about the culture of Multerra, that people are making fun of disabilities and saying I turned evil after coming back from Japan. No, it's called depression. I was depressed. But I was never toxic about it. Anyway, I'm not going to defend myself from someone who throws that fucking shit out there on a site that supports this kind of fucking shit. Greg, according to Jeff, Greg was the one I knew the longest, or at least was most intimate with. Yeah, me and Jeff were really close friends. And like I said, I still believed we were friends up until I found out that he'd been saying shit behind my back and pretending, apparently, to be my friend. I won't go on too much about Jeff because, honestly, like, I feel that my story with him has been resolved. I said everything that I wanted to say to Jeff, and I'm happy with that. I'm happy with how that ended. We're not friends anymore. But, you know, lies continue to be told. At least not as bad as some of the others. Okay, this is a funny one because I actually read this originally, like, you know, recent to less recent. So some of the more interesting stuff comes recently. According to Joe, Vada was an extension of my temper, etc., etc. Beatrix is literally a meme at Greg. Fuck you, I'll continue my fucking character on another site, you asshole. What? Like, I never even knew about your character Beatrix from another site, and the Omniverse always explicitly said that you were allowed to pull characters from other fictions, even other sites. How the fuck is that a fuck you at me? You're allowed to do that. I'm happy for you to do that. You're always allowed to do that. This is just some of the funny shit being thrown out. Yeah, and I think that's about it for the bullshit from the Multerra Discord that I just wanted to address for my own sense of closure. And at some point, I may do a little video about what happened, like the early days of the Omniverse, which, and like the middle period, which I think was the golden era for most of us. Like, and I just thought it was a great site, a great community of people to be on. It wasn't founded on hate or bullshit, and I just wanted to address some of those things. So if you're watching this and you are a chill person who didn't really know about much of this, I'm sure you don't give a fuck, but you know, thank you for watching and have a nice day. If you are, you know, Jeff, I've said my words to. Joe, you know, I was never the closest friends with Joe, but I did the one thing I regretted was that the way I handled after I disabled the site. Privately, well, semi-privately, I said to Joe, like, I kind of criticized him for his staffing because he was flaming people in the Discord and just fanning the flames. And I just said, like, in much ruder terms, I don't remember my exact words, but I just said, like, this is not helping. Why are you doing this? Why are you making things worse? And I said it in a confrontational way, and I regretted doing so. And I apologized to Joe afterwards, but I don't think he ever forgave me because obviously everything that happened since, the tribes that formed, the one person that, like, I never really understood the motives of is Alex. I think Alex is just a sociopath. Alex is one of the smartest people I know. He did a lot of things that were strange on the Omniverse that I won't go into, but like, he was my friend, and I maybe one of my closest friends. At least I thought he was. So I don't understand, Alex, how you can say that I was this terrible person. But like, we were always honest. We always spoke openly. Even what was it, like a month or two before you started Multerra, we were talking openly and honestly about how, like, all this was going to blow over and it was all going to be okay, and I was trying to help you with things. No, I wasn't always great back in that period, but like, we were friends and you support friends. Like, and if a friend is like becoming toxic, which I was, like, I came back from it. There was this period, obviously around my blow up, where like I wasn't helping things. And like I said, I apologized for this openly. I've never been perfect. But if if a close friend who you've known for over 7 years is acting like that, and you know that it's coming from a place of pain, what you don't do is take advantage of their vulnerability, tell people that they're planning to shut the site down, that, you know, he's worked years on for his life, that it's his baby, and the baby of all these other people, including yourself, who've worked to make the site a success. You don't use that as an opportunity to found your own site and then call that person a terrible person, despite him never knowing about any of this until he had to find out through a third party. So there it is. You know, Alex, when your ex told me that you cheated on her and then lied to her face about it, I really didn't know what to think. For years, I carried that knowledge, and I just didn't know what to think. Yeah, you lied about a few things to me on the Omniverse, but I think I was kidding myself. I think I couldn't bring myself to not trust you, because if I stopped trusting you, then everything would come crashing down. But I can believe it now, because you did the same thing to me. You've always been a respectful, well-spoken, intelligent, seemingly moral person. And you don't give anyone any reason to ever doubt the things you say. And you're clever. But you're not as clever as you think. Bonus shout out to the girl who told me that she loved my new hairstyle and drew a fucking portrait of me, only to a few months later say that I was always a terror on the site. Everyone was afraid of me, and that I never did any work for the site. Here's to you. You're the avatar of all of that bullshit. Also, just for fun, I never ever deleted dissenting opinions on the Omniverse, unless they were, breaking the rules, flaming, being racist, or anything like that. I wonder how long this takes to get deleted from the Multerra Discord. And just as a sign off, because I don't know if I will ever make the other video, I'd kind of like to, but I'm sort of past the Omniverse now. Like, to everyone who has just continued on with their lives and been chill, and I know there's a lot of you. I think, honestly, most of you obviously weren't involved in this. Like, just thank you for giving a shit and for being a part of the Omniverse when we were together. I'm still out there, for those of you who are chill. I still talk to some of you. I'm doing, for those who care, way better these days. Like I said, it took, 6 months to a year from that explosion from my life to start dramatically going uphill. I make games now. I talk about them on YouTube, and everything is great. Hopefully going to be a dad in the next couple years. Yeah, and like all of you, I know, like Goo and like all of you just chill folks who were never involved in any drama. Like, you're awesome, and like I hope everything really goes well for you. I know, like, I'm really sorry. I'm genuinely sorry that I couldn't keep running the site. What I realized after running the site for so many years is that it is not easy to make a good community, to make that healthy community that stays together and doesn't give way to toxicity. It's a constant battle. So you cannot step out. And that's why I ultimately had to step away, because I have other things that I need to do. And I hope you don't begrudge me that. And, everyone who's not toxic, I hope to like keep in touch with some of you and hear how you've been doing. And just as a final word, I know that we did lose someone who was very important to the site, whose name I won't speak in this video because I don't want to taint his name with this stupid fucking drama. But just respect. And like, thank you to everyone who ever helped out with the site and was an inspiration. I think the best of you sort of got out before the end. I think the problem with communities is that when they're small, they're a lot easier to handle and keep under control. But as they get bigger, that shit is really hard to keep under control. Though in this case, it was people that I never in a million years would have suspected who ended up being the catalyst for this. I think that's what hurt me so much and why I needed to make this video, is that these are people who I knew for like 7 years, at least since I was like 17, until I was like 30. Yeah, a long fucking time. And I did not see it coming. And for those people who are like, ha, you got Greg, totally got, yeah. I don't know if that's something to be proud of, but yeah, you totally got me. And good job. Yeah, no. It's kind of funny. Like, there's some people who've implied that I would like to come and join Multerra, or like I'm jealous. And it's like, no, those quarantine servers in online games where like if you act toxic in chat, I don't know if it's Omniverse Omniverse. I don't know if it's Overwatch that does this or some others, but they then make you play with all the other toxic players, and you're sort of quarantined. That's how I see Multerra, you know, and it does appear that all of the best people got the fuck off of there. And if you're watching this and like you had no idea about any of this or like why the site split in two or any of the drama, well, that's one thing I hope this video can do is, you know, explain what Multerra is and like why the fuck so many people left it other than, you know, I'm not going to throw shade at the rules, but come on. Uh, Other than that, like, thank you and just have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your life.